Welcome to Batcast 66. It's the podcast where we watch an episode of the 60s Batman show every other week, every week, I don't know, and we talk about it. Uh, I'm Kendall.
And I'm Scott, and joining us this week, we have a very special guest co-host, my very good friend Roxy.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Hi, Rox. Just so people at home get to know you a little bit, what's your relationship with this TV show?
I vaguely remember going back to like when I was like 5 or 6. This would play in like reruns after like Kids WB, so I have like it goes back a while for me. Like I kind of had the same opinion that I enjoyed it as a kid, but then like as I grew older, I had the same opinions that like some folks had that was very campy, kind of like eh. But then like as opinion turned and I got older and I grew to appreciate the camp more and just the fuller spectrum of who Batman can be as a character, I grew to enjoy it quite a bit.
Awesome. Is this like one of your earliest versions of Batman, or did you have
This
another one that was like near and dear to you?
oldest is obviously, Batman Taz, like, Kevin Conroy kind of is my Batman forever. Batman forever, but
Oh, so yeah, Val Kilmer's not your Batman forever?
oh, I got a lot of affection for like the Burton Schumacher movies, even Batman and Robin.
This is a very Batman and Robin positive podcast.
Yeah.
Good.
On the other hand, I can't stand Batman Forever.
I also don't like Batman forever, but
Oh no.
well,
I'm the
Kendall and I also wildly disagree on Batman Returns, so
Yeah.
okay.
it's fine.
But I
I'm a
think
fr- I'm a Kilmer apologist.
it's just so bad. It's just a bad movie.
Well, all right, we'll save Batman Forever for its own episode we can do
Okay.
sometime. But
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, no, I figured you were gonna say probably Batman the animated series was a big one for you as a kid because we're of a similar generation,
Yeah. I
and
remember
like, yeah,
I had like Batman Forever not Batman Forever, Batman animated series curtains and like bedspread as a kid. I might
Whoa,
still have
heck yeah.
I might have the bedspread somewhere like in a closet somewhere, but like yeah, I was pretty hardcore about it. I still have some of the toys even.
but yeah, I know in our group chat on Discord, I was talking about I think. I can't remember if I was talking about the podcast like often, but I know I specifically was mentioning the Bookworm episode. I was like, man, I just watched this really good episode of Batman, and then you're like, oh my God, Roddy McDowell, and then we started talking about it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you're really into the show. You should come on sometime. So I asked you like what if you had any specific episode or like villains you wanted to do. And one of the ones you said was King Tut, and I was kind of curious if you could elaborate why you were interested in maybe doing a King Tut episode.
All of like the original villains for the show, I thought it's like him and Egghead are the two big ones usually people talk about, and they're just a lot of fun. Like because on the one hand you got you know Egghead's Vincent Price, so he's always fun, and then Victor Buono, I believe is I'm I'm not sure about this pronunciation, but like he's a lot of fun as King Tut because he's not only just kind of a big goofy campy villain, but he has like moments of like genuine menace. Like in the previous episode, the Curse of Tut two-parter, like he drives one of his henchmen like permanently insane. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of nuts for like such a goofy show like that. Like
Yeah, sometimes the show gets like dark out of
yeah,
nowhere.
like in the first two-parter, Jill St. John falls into the fucking. Sorry, I can't. I was just
You
say
can
that.
cuss, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, it falls into the atomic pile, and it's like, what? What the hell?
Oh, we
Yeah.
talk about that all the time.
It has been a minute since we brought it up, though.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I feel like within every 6 episodes or so we have to bring it up. Because
I
it's not only is that like an insane thing to do, and then Batman makes a joke about it, like right
they
after. Yeah, he's
they
like, I forget what he said. Do you
What
remember what
a
he said, Kendall?
What a way to go.
Yeah, what a way to go because there was go-go
Oh my
dancing in the
God.
first half.
Oh my God.
Um, but no, yeah, I was watching this. I was like, yeah, he's the right camp, like level of camp and like silly and menace at the same time. Because we'll get into more detail as we break down the episodes. But just as a brief thing, like man, after the minstrel two-parter we just did, what a re-energizing couple of like what a re-energizing episode this was for me. I was like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, Batman's really fun.
yeah. No, Tut's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
good choice, Roxy.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned that, and I was like, well, we got a Tut one coming up, so we're trying to get the schedule figured out, and was like, and there's some of the other episodes you mentioned you may wanted to do like is relevant to this one as well. But I guess we'll talk about that when we get to that scene.
Yeah.
But anything else we
Anything
want to go
else?
over before we get into it?
Nothing I can think of.
All right. So today we're talking about The Spell of Tut.
Hmm.
It's season two, episode seven. Written by Robert C. Dennis and Earl Barrett. Scott, do you recognize those names at all?
I never recognize anyone's name.
Yeah, I don't recognize their names
The only
either.
one whose name I ever remember is Lorenzo Semple Jr.
Yeah, well, because he writes the good ones.
Yeah.
And it's directed by Larry Pierce. Another name I do not recognize.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's just like a rotating like stable of directors that just kind of like come in and shoot it. Because sometimes, like, I think this episode, these two episodes, this one especially has a lot of like interesting like shots and like directorial stuff, versus like last two episodes were very like flat and kind of not very dynamic. Like they just kind of came in, shot stuff, and then like left.
It just kind of sucked.
Yeah,
Um, but this one is fun. So let's get into it. It's midnight in Gotham City, and yeah, we see King Tut, the man of the hour, right at the episode's opening. He's feeding his pet crocodiles.
yeah, they are really bad animatronics. They look like straight out of the Rainforest Cafe.
Oh yeah.
Um, I love when shows like intercut like nature documentary footage or something with
Yeah, they
like
have like one crocodile like snapping shot that they use like three or four times.
That good B-roll.
Yeah.
yeah, and just like it doesn't even look like the video quality is like greatly different.
They
Um,
used to do gags like that on Freakazoid, where it's like it cuts like, obviously it's like anime that does like, like the like 30-year-old B-roll of like
Yeah, stuff that's probably in the public domain that they can just use.
yeah,
exactly.
I haven't watched Freakazoid since the 90s.
dude, we should do a Freakazoid episode.
Well, I have an idea what I want to do for April 1st. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Um, so while Tut's feeding his crocs, two of his goons are in a penthouse attempting to break into a safe.
Yeah. They're
Um,
breaking into Nick Fury's safe.
yeah, so
I,
the
I
guy,
had the exact same thought. I was like, it's old Nick Fury.
I'm like, they gave this guy like an eye patch and like made him very distinct. I thought he was gonna be a much bigger part of the episode.
yeah, definitely like the coolest dude in who's ever been on this show.
And he has a real gun,
Yeah.
like pointed at them. He's like, "Stop robbing me! I'm calling the cops." And then he goes to call them, and they just clobber him.
Is this guy anybody?
As far as I could tell, no, in like my research,
As far as I can tell, no, like I couldn't find anything
Yeah.
either.
So crazy. Like, what an interesting character to only show up in this scene. So, yeah, the two goons who their names are insane.
Yeah, they have. I can't. I didn't write down their names because I was never going to spell it right. And if I
It's
did write it
that
down, I would never remember how to pronounce it.
Amenophis Tufik.
He's the one that has the or my name isn't like running gag, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which is hilarious.
Yeah, Eamon Nafis Tufik is two words. Royal Lapardy is one of them. Sethos, Royal Apothecary. Oh, I guess Man of Distinction is the guy that probably has the eye patch. His name's played by Renee Paul. But like, and then there's another hench person for Tut, but I'll save their name until we get to it because it took me a minute to put it together, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a funny joke.
Oh, yeah, it is kind of funny. Um, so anyway, they succeed in like breaking open the space, but this man of distinction is just like, catches them in the act, is holding a gun to them, and he's basically like, you all better stay still while I call the cops. And they beat him over the head with a lead pestle.
Yeah, which will come back.
Dun, dun, dun.
Chekhov's pencil.
Yeah. We cut forward to the morning or the next day.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, he's in the Man of Distinctions in Commissioner's office, right?
yeah. And he's got a bandage around his head, and he's like, you know, all they stole was some amber beads, and they hit me over the head with this lead pestle. God, I do appreciate Gordon. Like, he's like, okay, like they could make the cops a lot stupider, but they usually put together like, okay, it's this criminal.
Yeah, because usually they put together that it's a super criminal and not a regular one, and that's when they call Batman. And I'm glad that they're like, they stole some weird Egyptian type jewelry. Like maybe it's King Tut, which they referenced. I think that he went sane again at the end of the last episode, and I was really excited. I was like, ooh, continuity. Like
Dude,
maybe he's back to being, his alter ego.
this
To the
two-parter has a lot of continuity.
There's a lot of it. I got really excited every time it happened. Because I don't know if you how much of the show you've watched recently, Roxy, but like there's almost never any like continuity callbacks.
that makes sense for like the tone of the show. Like you probably wouldn't like go back to it that often, especially since it's kind of a like a basically a live action cartoon. So
Yeah,
that
and I
tracks.
I think this was before like reruns became like a thing. Because I know Star Trek was also in 66, and then that didn't start becoming a bigger hit until reruns were a thing.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, a suspicious secretary appears in Commissioner Gordon's office, encouraging him to take his vitamins. And I say suspicious because we rarely see.
Oh yeah, we've never seen her. I don't think we've ever seen a secretary for him before, have we?
I think like once we've seen one, and it
It might
was
have
like,
been an incidental thing. I doubt she had any lines.
yeah, it was not important at all. But this one they make a big to do about. And she's, over eager to say the least.
you really need to take your pills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like leaning over the desk, like,
It's like, well, I've never taken pills before, but okay.
oh my God, there's so much like lack of like Batman is like anti-medicine.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh no,
he's almost
not
got an anti-vax kind of vibe throughout this episode. I didn't think
not
about that.
not the anti-vax Batman.
Dude, it's kind of crazy. Um, anyway,
I
that's
mean, he's right not to take strange pills from people he doesn't know.
well, yeah,
Damn,
in
Batman,
this
I thought you
case,
were
but
cool.
when he's like, "Oh, I don't take medicine. The body
Yeah.
has everything it needs to heal itself."
That's very Christian Scientist of him.
So crazy. I think that that scene actually happens very shortly.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
quick.
so yeah, they call Batman. Uh,
So so they don't show like the scene where they like just pan zoom in on the or push zoom on the bat phone in the office. And like, oh, we need to call Batman. They just cut and he's just talking to him. Is the office set in Wayne Manor like different?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the one we've seen like every episode till now.
Interesting. I wasn't paying attention.
I just don't know. Maybe we got it at a weird angle or something, but it didn't look like the same set we usually get.
Huh. Does it show them go to the bat poles? I
Yeah, it
guess
shows them go
not.
to the bat poles. Because yeah, they go to the bat poles and then we get like the stock footage of them like starting up the Batmobile and driving to police headquarters is how the episode starts.
Interesting. I wonder why they would remake a set. Nothing about it in the Bat book.
No, nothing about it in Batbook. The
Interesting.
the Bat facts are about uh the cameo we have and Stafford Rep dying in 1974, which I don't know why they bring that up in this one.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's weird.
Um, but yeah. So Commissioner calls them. They rush right over. And it's here that the new secretary, uh, Miss Patrick, we
Yeah, Miss
learn her name
Patrick.
is.
Yeah.
Um, she tries to get Batman to take a vitamin, and yeah, Batman doesn't believe in medicine.
Yeah. But so Batman also agrees that it's probably King Tut, and they have the foresight to call Yale and see if he's still there. And I was thinking, it's like, did Yale have to sign off on like having this character be one of their professors? Like, they just employ crazy people who can go like nuts and become like arc megamaniacal like villains.
I
Uh,
mean, considering the world they live in, that's a real possibility. Like, think about how many supervillains are like former scientists.
Yeah, but they could have just called it Gotham University.
yeah, I don't think they have to get like permission.
It's like that's like a publicly known place. It's like,
I just don't know if it like constitutes like slander or something. It's just what I was
Nah,
thinking about when it was happening, like when they kept because they have to keep saying Yale throughout it.
they do say yeah a lot. Yeah. It's a pretty funny scene when he calls up the dean, like,
Yeah,
Dean, this is Batman. And like we don't hear the other side of the conversation, but it's like implied that he's like, I'm sorry, who? Like,
yeah,
like,
because
I'm
Batman ends
sorry,
up having to spell
Batman.
his
yeah. It reminds me of the Catwoman episode a couple episodes ago when he had to call the guy in the police box and he's like, "Hey, this is Batman." The guy's like, "You're pulling my leg, Batman. What do you call me?" And I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
"Yeah." He just calls people and he's like, "Hey, it's Batman," and people just believe him
Um,
half the time.
oh, another interesting thing. We get, dude, the like police brutality vibes in this show like come through. Like,
Yeah. Oh my God, I
Yeah,
noticed that.
I did write that down too, where O'Hara really just wants to beat up criminals real bad because
yeah,
it
yeah.
happens a lot. Like the only time I ever censored something we said is I made a joke about it, and I was like, "That's too dark."
It's yeah. Yeah, Chief O'Hara's just like thinks Batman is way too soft on all these criminals. And it's just like, okay, what's your solution?
Yeah,
A good knock
I mean,
upside the
like,
head is what
and like King Tut's one of the more for this series, one of the more like sympathetic ones, where it's not a real split personality, but it's like the Fred Flintstone kind of split personality. You get bumped on the head and you think you're somebody else. So like the
Yeah,
main his
yeah, they're like,
main guy is innocent, you know?
yeah, he's a nice little guy, but then he gets bonked on the head, and then he's a supervillain.
Yeah, he becomes a theater kid.
I was gonna say he has big theater kid vibes.
he sure does. I feel like all these supervillains in this show, like maybe were ex-theater kids.
I mean, at least the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when Batman calls the dean, he finds out that uh the professor, now known as King Tut, I forget his name. Did he say
I
it in
don't
Yeah,
think
this
they said
episode?
it in
they
this
don't
episode.
say it in they don't
Yeah,
say it, but it's William Omaha McElroy or
yeah,
McElroy.
or McElroy. I know they said it in the first appearance. I I can't remember the names of anything, so thank you for knowing that.
Yeah. Well, he fell off a podium and hit his head, and no one has seen him since. Uh, Seems irresponsible not to like report that, but
This man needs a helmet.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Um, oh yeah, the man of what's he? The man of interest. That's what he's credited
man of
as.
distinction,
Man of distinction. He turned in the
the lead pestle.
yeah, that he was bonked over the head with, and they figure it must come from an apothecary. And apparently there's only one in Gotham City.
Yeah, because well, Batman mentions like we know him as like druggists and all of these like the modern version. It's like, but there's only one place that goes by apothecary, and it's the Apex Apothecary Shop in like the Pyramid Building. So like, of course.
Of course.
Now I'm an idiot, and when he said the Pyramid Building, I thought it was gonna be a building shaped like a pyramid. It's just named that, which
Yeah.
makes more sense.
But this it's disappointing though.
Yeah,
See, you would think that they would kind of scope out all these places like the old like abandoned amusement parks and stuff like that, and place
yeah.
like like the pyramid building, like, hey, so and so is associated with this gimmick. Probably keep an eye out on that.
They like kind of cut to the chase in the Archer episode where they're like, well, they just like immediately like cross-reference like Robin Hood like named places and like, oh, he's at this archery range. That must be where he is, and they just go there and he is.
Using that foresight.
But like, I will say that it doesn't work on the Riddler because he's always somewhere in the sewers or like an abandoned power plant
Yeah. He
or
loves
something strange.
abandoned infrastructure.
And he always takes over some sort of vermin themed gang. It's very strange for the Riddler.
Hmm.
Um, we get a quick scene where like Commissioner Gordon and Batman like both acknowledge Miss Patrick. Like Gordon can't stand her, which I think is funny. But it's all like very tinged in sexism.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to bring that up. Kendall, how much of TOS have you watched for Star Trek?
Me?
Yeah.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, I was sick. So do you remember like I remember being really disappointed watching that. Like because I got like I got into Star Trek like like 10 years ago or so. But like it's very like I think it's just the time it's very casually like sexist. And that show is supposed to be like like post-sex and racism.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's a big thing in like the last episode, like Turnabout Intruder, how like there's no female ship captains, which is like insane to think about.
Yeah, especially because there is one in Enterprise,
Yeah. Well, then
which is
again, the character
obviously
is also insane too, so
well,
that
yeah,
makes
but also
sense.
that show wasn't made for like 40, 50 years later, but like it's a prequel to that series. I don't know. It's I don't know, just that's just how it's just how shows in society was at the time.
Yeah, like just because you're making something that's like set,
Yeah.
then like I mean it's like a work of fiction that's like
Yeah.
influenced by like your real world
Yeah.
setting. Like just because your intention is to make something that's beyond that, if you yourself are not beyond that,
Yeah.
it's gonna creep in.
And Roddenberry was not beyond that, as we found out later.
Oh, yeah, I don't really put Roddenberry on a pedestal. I think Star Trek got better after he was no longer with it.
Oh yeah,
Uh, but
especially TNG.
oh God. We'll save my TNG thoughts for a
That's
different.
another day. That's another day.
Yeah, yeah, because I can go on a Star Trek tangent like nobody's business. But yeah, my I always compare Batman and Star Trek the original series because they came out at the same time and they have like not a similar target audience, but it's just my most immediate points of comparison because they're both from the same time period and
That's
they're the only ones that like I can speak on with any like authority after having watched them a bunch of times.
if not the same DNA, the same kind of, let's say, you know, genus, if
Yeah,
we will.
they must have similar production like style, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I did write that down in my notes. I did point that out. I was like, oh yeah, it's just how the time was.
Yeah. So we cut to King Tut's apothecary lair, and Tut is attempting to revive the scarabs that were preserved in this amber.
Yeah, that was what the beads were that he stole. Uh, so I noticed that the Dutch angle is like way more crooked than it normally is. Like it made me do like a head tilt, like more than they
Oh,
usually do. I don't know if anyone else had that problem.
Mm.
Okay, maybe it was just me. But I did like they're like so they're all in him and his goons are all in scrubs, and I like that Tut's like
His little beard like
headgear.
hanging out underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like shaped like his like I don't know what that like pharaoh hat is called, but it took me a minute to realize that that's what it was, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cute. But yeah, they're doing their best Dr. Frankenstein impression.
yeah. It's here where we get the first one of these jokes where it's like the one goon is like, you
Oh, my
can't bring
name
them
isn't.
back to life. Dead
Yeah.
is dead, or my name isn't Amenophis Tufik.
Yeah, and I love that Tut is like probably heard of this a million times. He's like, oh my God, shut up.
So
It's like, I really regret naming you that.
correct me if I'm wrong. In the last Tut episode, I felt like the goons were like not really into the whole
They
ink.
were kind they were there for the paycheck, definitely. Like they were more like this guy's kind of crazy, but he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, in this one, like they're all about it.
Yeah,
Like,
they're game for it. They're like, yeah, like we're like it's ancient Egypt. This guy's Tut. Let's go.
yeah, it's like such a big like difference.
I want
I
to
think
mention
it's
too,
fun. Both are fun.
the
Both,
Royal Apothecary. I think he more than the rest of them are like is really into it, and his actor. I noticed that he was kind of giving it more than the other ones were, and I really liked his actor because I was like, he's very familiar, and I've got like I've seen a lot of media, like a lot of movies, TV shows, whatnot. I'm like, okay, who is this guy? This guy is somebody. I wait till the end of the credits, and it's Sid Haig, who those you don't know is I'm like a big horror fan, so like I know him from stuff like Devil's Rejects and House of Corpses, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that that was Sid Haig.
Yeah,
oh, whoa.
so I thought that was neat. I was like, it's like baby Sid Haig.
I know, yeah, we've seen a couple of like early like celebrities like oh my God, the Catwoman one had like one of the early appearances of Josh Brolin's dad. I can't remember his first name. James Brolin.
Yeah, James Brolin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. It is fun like seeing people show up here that, we get a lot of like people who are already established having guest spots in the show, but it's I think
yeah.
even more fun to see like people just getting their start in the show.
Oh yeah.
And he's having the time of his life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he goes all in. So yeah, they're attempting to uh revive these scarab beetles.
I think they say they died about 4,000 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't remember how long ago it was. It just was they're extinct. It's but except I guess
Yeah.
They're
this is more Jurassic Park than Dr. Frankenstein since it's like
yeah.
bugs and amber.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're using electricity.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very 60s Jurassic Park, let's say.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, they turn their electric thing, whatever they're using to like electrocute these bugs, they turn it up to 200,000 volts, which seems it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
It
Well, they've
seems
been
like it
dead a
would
long
just burn them.
well, they've been dead a long time, Kendall. You really need the juice to kind of get them going. Everyone knows that you put enough juice up some inside something else to get it moving again.
It'll get moving. Yeah. Well, turns out it works. But
That was a joke on Venture Brothers. Like, hey, you shove enough juice up its ass, it'll start moving.
oh, I need to rewatch that. I feel
I don't
like
think I ever finished Venture Brothers.
It got really good at the end. Like
Did it?
the
Because it had
first two,
such a long hiatus, I just kind of fell off.
yeah,
yeah,
same.
it was one of those shows that like would go on for. It was never like a year to year shows. They'd have like year gaps in between because they really like it was like mostly like two guys who did most of the writing and voice acting on it. And the guy who was like behind Adult Swim at the time, Mike Lazo, he loved the show, so he was like, "Fuck it, just give them like as much time as they need." But yeah, as soon as he left the company, they canceled the show. So
Is there a movie coming out or did that come out?
it
I
came
think it
out.
came
That was
out.
like uh, Radiance is the blood of the baboon heart. It was basically like they took all the stuff that was supposed to be part of their season 8, which they had been pre-approved for, that got canceled, and they basically kind of like put all of it together into a movie. It wraps things up and answers like most of the questions that were still there.
Fun. I'll have to do a rewatch.
It's worth it. Like towards the end, like the art stock got really good. Like the writing got pretty tight.
I
A lot
thought
of
it
stuff.
was always really tight and good.
Yeah, it was like there's like some like aside from the first two seasons, which has a lot of transphobia in it, obviously because like Doctor Girlfriend, they moved past that and like I feel like once they got to like season 5 onward, like that was some like their best. Like it really hit its stride. Like and like you can't say that about a lot of TV shows where like towards the end of its run it got better and better.
Yeah, I would say because of the communities we're plugged into, didn't the trans community officially like or formally forgive Brock Sampson for the transphobia in that show?
More or less. Like
But
I
I was
forgive,
gonna
I don't
say
forget.
one of my favorite early bits in that to link it back to this is when Dean would wear his Batman mask.
Hank.
Or Hank, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
terrible, terrible with names. I haven't watched that show forever. Uh yeah,
Because he had
yeah.
like
Hank wears the 60s Batman like costume, which was like the old 60s like flat plastic masks that like were
it's
terrible.
got, and it's got like the bat logo on the forehead too. Like
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like perfect. Yeah,
it's like the night is mine.
yeah. I mean, that show was great for,
callbacks and stuff.
yeah,
Mhm. Oh yeah.
to the 60s, you know.
Comics
It's
and
got
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
got a lot of affection for that like 60s era like adventure show stuff.
yeah,
yeah. All right, so where do we leave off? They're reviving the Beatles or the
yeah.
Scarabs, right?
So Batman and Robin, we cut to them and they're already climbing up to the apothecary because, of course, it's on the top floor of this building.
Oh
Of
yeah.
course. It
Otherwise, we
has
wouldn't be
to.
able to get an awesome cameo.
Yeah.
By
Is
the
this only
Green
like
Hornet.
this? Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of funny you got this episode because one of the ones that you were like, oh, maybe I could do the Green Hornet episode, and you kind of did
Yeah.
with this because yeah, it's Green Hornet and Kato, played by Van Williams and a young Bruce Lee. So we get another young actor in this one.
Yeah.
It's also very funny because like yesterday on TV when I was at work, they had Kill Bill on, which famously has the Green Hornet theme in it.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
it was like one of those like weird little things, just kind of Serendipity, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Quentin Tarantino, I can see being like into like that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like you can tell like he's kind of a Bruce Lee fan, even though like this famously like in the last movie, like you know they with with regard sorry
It's all
with
good.
regard with regard with regards to Bruce Lee, like he kind of portrayed him negatively in like his last movie.
I was last his last movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh man, that was like years ago.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I like Quentin Tarantino's movies, but like I don't like Quentin Tarantino.
As a person, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
So I don't keep up with all of his comings and or goings.
He's got a very punchable face.
And a very punchable personality.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't punch a personality.
I know.
I can try, but
But yeah, so Batman and Robin are like, hey, this isn't your city.
yeah, and it's weird because they kind of reference them being like heroes, even though in the later episode, skipping ahead a little bit, it's like in continuity with the TV show is like them being publicly known as villains.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that I'm not a big Green Hornet expert, but like I know their thing is like they're
They're
disguised like they're
interesting.
undercover as criminals to like fight
It's an
crime.
interesting gimmick, which brings back around to Venture Brothers again because they did have kind of their own version of the Green Hornet, the Blue Morpho.
The hell's a
Like
Morpho?
it's a Blue Morpho is a type of butterfly.
Okay. That makes sense for them since they do a lot of butterfly stuff.
Yeah, and no spoilers, but like it's related to another character on that show.
Yeah. I'll go back. I gotta go back and rewatch it. Um,
But
but
anyway,
yeah, it's just kind of a fun little thing. Like they mentioned
that's
that they were on assignment from whatever their city's called.
I honestly I rewatched a couple episodes of the show, and for the life of me, I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
they
could be
say
more
they're on
detailed.
assignment from the newspaper he works for. It's the something Globe.
Oh yeah,
Daily
yeah. I think
Daily Sentinel.
his alter
It's
ego, I believe, is a reporter.
Yeah.
Britt Reed owns the newspaper,
Okay.
the Daily Sentinel.
Okay.
It's one of those things like I like the character, but I'm not that crazy about like anything the character's been in. It's really weird.
I only really remember the Seth Rogen movie from a couple years ago and everyone hating that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I didn't see it.
I didn't see it
it's
either.
it's
Who
not
played
great.
who played Kato in that? Was it the guy from Harold and Kumar?
It was not. It was. Let me double check this.
Am I racist for having thought that?
I think so.
Yeah,
You are.
maybe.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
Let me find
But that I was racist or that it was
Jade
Harold and Kumar.
Jade
That
Chow.
you were racist.
Okay.
Jade Chow. He's much bigger in Asia.
All right. So
Taiwanese
Jay
singer,
Chow, the other
musician.
guy's name is John Cho. All right. And I didn't
Yeah.
watch the movie and I don't remember things very well.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Anywho,
yeah, very fun cameo. I guess it will be silly to see how they don't line up when in however many episodes this season Green Hornet does show up again.
Yeah. I do think it's funny after they close the window, Robin's like, what were they dressed up like that for? And I'm like, as someone who's walked around in that Batman costume, you feel very silly. Like there's no way to get around it.
Well, you see, when you dress up in that Batman
Yeah.
costume, you're a nerd. When Adam
Yeah.
West does it, he commands respect
Yeah.
from
Yeah, that's what we'll
his
say he
community.
commands.
I just think it's funny because like Green Hornet and Kano is like basically wearing suits and like
And domino masks.
and then you compare like Batman and Robin. It's like how I don't know why they'll dress so crazy. Like we're dressed completely normal.
Yeah.
Robin crime fights in underwear like a sane person.
Yeah, like who wouldn't? You need that flexibility.
Yeah, get real
Everything
low.
breathes. Everything breathes.
Yes, that's a fun little scene. It's also one of the few ones I knew what they people were without looking it up.
Oh yeah.
Once we realized that that one was like Dick Clark, I knew who he was, but I didn't recognize him from the 60s. But yeah, so Batman and Robin get into the apothecary, and then Sid Haig as Royal Apothecary like kind of meets them in the front of the store and makes a joke about like, hey, it's easier to use the elevator.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. So we get this scene where the Royal Apothecary is kind of like really trying to like sell that nothing suspicious is going on there, but
In
He's
the
really doing,
yeah,
he's
it
really doing the don't be suspicious dance.
yeah, it's the most suspicious thing I've ever done because he's also dressed like an Egyptian guy,
yeah.
like, and they're looking for an Egyptian themed like crime guy.
And eventually they just like give up on that, and then the rest of the goons come out to like have a fight.
Yeah, yeah, and like I was a little disappointed in this fight because there seemed to be like I always say, like you can tell there's about to be one of those big Batman brawls when they enter a room and there's like lots of stuff you can like smash. And then when they pull out, like it doesn't seem like there's that much. Like there's a barrel they throw around, that's kind of it.
Yeah. Um, and also like I don't, it's not the fault of the show. The show has a formula, but like I just wish there was something more to like the fight. And I felt this way for a couple episodes now. Like,
Hmm.
why do these people just think they can like win at like straight fisticuffs?
I mean, because there's usually like a ton of them and there's just Batman and or Robin. And to be fair, whenever it's usually Robin, they usually win.
Yeah, well, when it's just Robin.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Do you remember like the Mr. Freeze episode where like Batman and Robin single-handedly like
Oh yeah.
up like 15 dudes?
Yeah, there was like 10 sets of Batmans and Robins and they just clobbered them all.
Yeah, it's just like at a certain point, it's like, okay, like we can't win at like straight fisticuffs, but like if we have this other gimmick, maybe we could. I don't know. I just think it's like ridiculous that they keep trying to have a fight.
A little subterfuge, you know?
I
Throw a
Like
mean, I
little,
don't know. I don't know what Egypt thing you could do.
smoke bombs?
Did they? I don't know. I mean, they do stuff. I don't know. It's over pretty quick.
well, yeah, and I guess it ends because the Royal Apothecary just has a bucket of sneezing powder
Yeah.
that he blows in their face.
Yeah, it looked like a big pile of cocaine.
Maybe it was, who knows?
I don't think they'd waste that.
Um, but yeah, the
That's a side hustle.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin have like a sneezing fit, and
Probably
King
should have
Tut,
led with that more than the fight,
Well,
because that
like
takes them out
I,
pretty quick.
before the fight, I thought they were gonna like knock him out with gas because they opened like this Ark of the Covenant and like a bunch of like purple gas comes out of it and they all breathe that. And I thought they were gonna be knocked out.
yeah, I was expecting that
But he
also.
just has a box of smoke.
It's the Ark of the Covenant.
My
Yeah.
precious smoke. No.
Yeah.
It took
Uh,
But
so long to get in there.
but yeah,
yeah,
anyway, the Beatles were revived and they like scoop them all up and like escape out the back.
except one.
Yeah, they leave one behind, so Batman's able to like discover it and be a scientist.
Yeah. Um, we get the origin of the word scarab, which I forgot what it was, but
I know
so
they
does
say it.
Robin, and he gets like scolded for not studying his Egyptology or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that's always happened is like Batman's training Robin is like, oh, you need to study this and that. Because like obviously knowing how to read Egyptian hieroglyphics like comes in handy because Batman's able to discover the formula for the Abu Rabu Simbu 2. And it says
Yeah.
like a big string of like chemical formula. I was like, but yeah, but none of this matters because the thing you need to make the scarab you make it from like has been extinct for 4,000 years or whatever until now, because now they have the one that's alive.
Bum
Yeah.
bum.
So they start, they're like, oh, King Tut must be breeding them so he can make this potion that puts people under your spell.
Yeah. The spell of Tut, if you will.
Yeah. Oh my
Hey, that's the
God.
name of the episode.
Um, it's here that the Sphinx makes a comeback from the
I was
first
so
story.
excited.
Yeah.
You mean Baphomet?
That big Sphinx that they have. I know it's more like a statue of Baphomet than a Sphinx. But like, yeah, that was, because you watched the first Tut episode, like, that was a part of his scheme where he did like prophecies through that. I guess Bruce Wayne won it at a police auction or something.
That actually would make sense, like how he gets all those stuff for his trophy room. Like he just like buys it at police auction.
Hmm.
Yeah. I hope we get an episode where there's a giant T-Rex and a big penny.
You know
Yeah.
what? The penny plunder is kind of a missed opportunity because I feel like he would have really flourished in Batman 66.
Is this a Batman character?
The penny plunder? Yeah, Joe Coyne. That's how
Oh.
he in the continuities that's not Two-Face, that's how he gets the giant penny.
Ah.
His whole gimmick was pennies.
It's weird that like that has become an enduring Batman thing, but like I've never heard of that character.
Yeah, same.
I'm
But he's got to
I'm
be a
deep.
Silver Age thing, so he probably was around at this time.
There's a lot of Silver Age characters that I like look back, I'm like, how did they not use that? Because they used a bunch of other characters who were not like Batman villains, like the Clock King at the time was not a Batman villain. He was more of a Green Arrow villain. But it's
Mm.
it's it's whatever. I'm like I'm like deep in the sauce. I've been soaking in the sauce of like DC Marvel like for years. So this is the stuff that's like in my brain.
Yeah, I was
Excellent.
gonna say like I've speculated that a lot of these characters, like King Tut and like the Archer and those things, just like they happen to have access to like these themed props and sets and stuff.
That
So
would make sense.
just create a villain around that.
Well, the Archer is actually a Superman villain.
Is he? I didn't
Believe it
see
or
him
not.
as in anything. I guess maybe it's because I was looking just specifically with Batman stuff.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he gives Superman a lot of trouble.
No. It's like with Wonder Woman, like she has a lot of villains that are also kind of like nowhere's near her weight class, and it's like, why are you fighting that person? Like, you'd be much better off like two towns over fighting like Hawkman or somebody.
Ah.
Yeah, weird. The Archer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
no, it was
speaking
the
of
Catwoman episodes that we just did where there was a bunch of Superman references.
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
couldn't remember
right.
was yeah. Anyway,
a funny,
uh,
sorry, one more aside. Like funny
what's
thing
up?
about King Tut. I was thinking about this the other day. He's got a lot of similarity to another Batman villain, Maxi Zeus.
I think we talked about Maxie Zeus in our last episode on King Tut.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Mac Jesus.
And I'm looking
Oh,
this up now. Like he was created after the show. So I was
yeah,
thinking, like, why didn't they just use that character? It's like because he didn't exist yet. Okay, that
Ah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
And I think Kendall, wasn't a Maxie Zeus story like one of your formative Batman stories? We talked about it in our Batman Day episode.
yeah, it was like one of my first comic books ever is a Maxi Zeus issue.
My
Um,
first my first exposure to Maxi Zeus was when they put out like the VHSs for Batman Taz. One of them was for Mr. Freeze, but it didn't have both the Mr. Freeze episodes like you would think it would because he only had two episodes in the first run. One of them was a Maxi Zeus episode for some reason.
is it
Yeah,
the one with the big laser?
Yeah, because that's like his only thing. Like he makes like a big lightning bolt laser. And I guess whoever was like writing the tie-in comic for the show at the time must have really liked him because he showed up several times,
yeah. I think he only had
including
one episode of the show.
only one episode of the show, but like he was in the Batman Adventure comics several times, and he would team up with guys like Lex Luthor and Ra's al Ghul. And it's
That's
like,
cool.
what?
Yeah, why did they need him?
I don't know, but it's like,
A guy that thinks he's Zeus and has no superpowers.
yeah, but
He
like
has
the
money.
yeah, he went up against us like the before the Superman show debuted in the comic. There's like a Superman Batman crossover, and it's got like 90s Superman with like the mullet and everything. And like you think like, oh, it'd be like he go up against like the Joker and Lex Luthor. No, it's Maxie Zeus for some reason. I'm like, okay,
I never read the Batman Adventures comics.
I kind of want to get that omnibus, but I mean, I don't have.
the money for it.
Yeah, maybe we should start a Batcast Patreon so we can just buy random Batman
I
things.
mean, we'll talk about him on the show.
Yeah. Uh one last thing
I can
before
do
we
it.
get back to the episode. So the Archer isn't, it's not only that he's a Superman villain, he's like the first costume Superman villain.
Really?
Really?
That makes sense. For Superman fought a lot of like gangsters and just like general crime people
Yeah.
for a while. I think his first villain was a landlord, if I'm not mistaken, in Action Comics #1.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
And Grant Morrison brought him back to his roots in 2011, fighting landlords again.
I liked that Action Comics run.
Yeah.
That whatever.
Oh, I know you have big opinions on New 52.
New.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so it's in the papers that Bruce Wayne has purchased this Sphinx. Um, and we get this weird scene that like implies like a lack of literacy on like the part of one of the henchmen.
Oh yeah, 'cause he's like barely able to read the article.
Yeah, and he's like reading it out loud, like, every syllable like is like enunciated.
Yeah.
And I mean, if King Tut being a Yale professor, I'd like to think he like taught that guy how to read.
Strangely heartwarming. Like
Yeah.
he's a fair and just pharaoh.
We can't spell Pharaoh without fair.
Too
Yes.
true.
Um, so yeah, he sends his goons to like go steal the Sphinx back, and they like use bushes as disguises to like get
Oh, I
across
love the
the
bushes as
lawn.
disguises. But before that, they mentioned he's going to donate to the Black Museum in Scotland Yard. He was like, "Oh my God, that's where like all of the greatest criminals in history are, like Jack the Ripper and all the stuff." I'm like, you know what? I could see villains being kind of into that. Like,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's like hitting the big leagues. That's like, hey,
yeah.
I'm immortalized forever.
And so part of the ongoing discussion we're doing on this podcast is to find out like which of these characters is this Batman's like biggest villain. And like King Tut can kind of be in the running
He's
because he
up
had more
there.
appearances. Yeah, I know he's going to show up more,
I
but
think he's got another one this season, and then like one more in season three.
yeah. I know of the original characters, he's like kind of the one that like shows up the most.
Yeah,
Hell
Because
yeah.
usually they're like one and done. I think Egghead's in 2 episodes.
yeah.
But yeah, so I just thought that was cool.
So inside of the Sphinx, Robin is just like waiting. They're doing like a Trojan horse maneuver.
Yeah.
So like Robin hides inside of the Sphinx and allows himself to be taken, but he's in like communication with like Batman. And we get of like Bruce and Alfred inside the manor. And like, oh, what does Bruce say? He's like, my young ward and I are going fishing again. Like, I forget what it was. I should have wrote it down. Did anyone else get that?
No.
No,
Oh,
sorry.
so good. It was so good. Um, but yeah, just like making comment on how like they're always using fishing as their excuse to go crime fighting.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so he's got the bat radio, Robin, so you can like radio in and tell Batman what's going on.
Yeah, so back at the lair, the apothecary has like successfully made this potion that's gonna mind control Gotham City and
The bug juice.
the bug juice. And for starters, King Tut wants it turned into like a pill form.
Yeah, because
Because
yeah,
surprise,
Miss
what
Patrick.
Miss Patrick or Cleo is her first
Cleopatra.
name.
Yeah,
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra. Yeah, it took me a minute to put that together, and I was like, oh.
She's in cahoots with King Tut.
I think I didn't put
Cat.
together because they were calling her Miss Patrick at police headquarters, and because Chief O'Hara is so Irish, my brain was like, oh, Fitzpatrick, like autocorrected it in my
Hmm.
brain.
He is pretty Irish.
That's his power. He makes everything more Irish by association.
Yeah,
But yeah, so she's gonna slip one of these pills to Commissioner Gordon.
pretty good plan.
Really good plan.
Yeah.
Uh Robin inside of the Sphinx drops his communicator and everyone hears it. So Robin gets caught. It's such a shame. I feel like he never gets better as a crime fighter.
Well, he's still a kid. He's still a teenager. He's the boy wonder, not the man wonder.
Yeah, soon.
Might be
Soon.
hard, probably hard to grab things with those gloves.
Yeah, I can bet.
Yeah, maybe he's got to change up the costume.
But this leads to an interesting thing I don't think we've seen before, where Robin gets kidnapped and he is the cliffhanger, like in danger character.
Yeah, but before that, we get one more callback to a previous episode.
Yeah.
So Batman noticed that he's like, oh, he must have dropped the communicator. It's like very fragile, but I can track him because I put some radioactive like pellets in his utility belt.
Yeah.
And like I forget the episode, but remember he was like he sprayed something with like,
It was the first Catwoman one.
oh yeah, yeah,
They
those
let they let her steal the thing she was trying to steal.
yeah, because he sprayed it with like a radioactive spray and then traced it with a
Yeah,
Geiger.
the bat Geiger counter.
Yeah, I
Another
thought that
bat
was
counter.
a fun. It's not a specific callback, but like we haven't seen this since that
Yeah,
episode.
but it's one of the many tools that they have.
Yeah, but yeah, Robin is gonna be fed to the crocodiles.
Yeah, he's up on a plank that's like retreating or receding into the wall.
Yeah, even though the plank's not that high, like those crocodiles could have gotten him.
I mean, if we're looking at that, those crocodiles are also extremely fake.
Yeah. Like if they were actually real crocodiles, maybe.
Dude, Batman fought a real tiger that one time,
He did.
and I was shocked that that happened.
But yeah, is Robin doomed? That's what we're asked at the end of today's episode.
Yeah, that's the spell of Tut.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was really refreshing after the Minstrel two-parter.
Yeah.
So the season's kind of gone like dud, really good. And if he keeps doing that, I don't know if I'll be able to handle all the whiplash.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm excited to talk about the conclusion whenever we get there. 2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
So we'll see you then. Same Batcast time, same Batcast channel.